Infusion. Infusion.
Hey, I am so glad that you all joined us here today on the first episode of Infusion. It is the exploration of Black culture influences in sci-fi, comics, and horror. I hope you like this cultural journey into a realm that directly connects with some of the real adventures that you've seen here at Farsight. How do we get here? When the bulk of Black representation in the sci-fi community is marginal at best, how do we get to the point of inspiration? Today I'm going to introduce you to an incredible, amazing creator named Tony Cade. Both he and I have a lot in common. We both discovered sci-fi and comics right around the same age of 8. For Tony, his dad brought comics home from work, and Tony ended up devouring them. Now, as he matured into an adult, his interest and inspiration regarding comics continued to grow. His first main job was as a wedding photographer, but he had a huge stash of comics that he had collected and saved over the years. And he used that stash to start his own store, which he aptly named Quantum Comics. It was part photography studio, it was part art studio, it was part comic shop, all rolled up into one umbrella that they simply named Midtown Studios, that was based here in Atlanta. And now his current shop, Challenges Comics and Games, is one of the best collections of sci-fi, fantasy, and superhero gaming and comic collections in the Southeast United States. Eventually, around 2004, he started to publish his own comics. He and a group of friends put together a comic anthology titled Terminus Evolution 1. It was a labor of love that over the years led him and his colleagues to publishing at least 6 different titles, including The Gilded Age, Radio Free America, and Route 3, all independent publications with multiple issues. His own writings and comic creations have all been superhero or action in nature, with characters like Amber Fox and Terra Force. Now Tony is about to publish a new comic focusing on a new take on a superhero universe he has already explored before. Her name is Autumn Fox, and we want to get some insight into the mind of her creator. Honestly, it's best that you hear directly from Tony Cade himself. Hello, Tony. How are you doing today?
Hey, Vincent. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm glad to have you here on our premiere episode of Infusion. I'm going to start real quick so we can go ahead and get the ball rolling. Autumn Fox. The origins of Autumn Fox as a character are very different from the original Amber Fox from this universe. Why is that?
Well, the basic difference between the characters are the purpose of each character. Basically, back when I created the character of Autumn Fox, I created the character of Amber Fox. It was when I was doing work with Terminus Media. And we had all of these different stories that were taking place in different time periods and in different realities. So basically, I had to create a character that could basically travel to all these different places to bring all of the universes together. The purpose of Amber was to combine and create a universe that has some kind of cohesiveness.
Oh, that's pretty clever.
That way and stuff, she had her terminus and she could travel to different worlds. So you could basically have any kind of adventure that you want. And she could actually meet different characters from other stories within the terminus universe.
Now, how does Autumn Fox story kind of flow into this type of setup?
Well, the character of Autumn was created for a completely different purpose. All right, when I created Autumn, at the time I wasn't planning on doing any more comic book projects, but I had a couple of artists that I previously worked with before in the past who both came to me within the same week and were saying that they really wanted to do adventures with my Amber Fox character that I created. And I pretty much had told them that, it was something that I'd kind of like stepped away from and didn't really have any interest in doing anymore. But they kept on me, and I basically came back with, all right, let's do this then. How about if I re-envision the character and come with a different, purpose? And when I created the character of Autumn, it was basically to create an adolescent type character that young people could learn from. And I could tell stories about, families and friends and how to, survive and things and stuff involving, the things and threats that we have throughout the world. So I basically created a character that I want to use to give knowledge, but to give knowledge in such a way that you're being entertained, so you don't necessarily know that you're learning.
So, because we haven't really gone into the origin of the character yet, as far as how Autumn Fox came about, because I found that very unique. There's a strong cultural infusion in your story. Is that what you're trying to convey a little bit more of, trying to give people a sense of the cultures that they came from? Because, well, why don't you kind of give us a little brief of how Autumn Fox, the character, came about, like a sneak peek into her origin?
Well, the way the origin works and stuff is that basically, I don't want to get too much away from the story, but basically it's a coming of age story that's basically 100,000 years in the telling. And the way it works is that she is going to be from multiple cultures. And so she's going to be able to, tell stories from different viewpoints. That's one of the reasons that when I put together my team, basically, I've got people working from, the Atlantic Rim to the Pacific Rim on this storyline. And I also brought in a lot of female colorists, artists, and co-writers to help make sure that we were actually portraying everything, from a proper female point of view when we were telling our stories. So my whole thing is about having something that was very, friendly to everybody, and to tell stories that no matter what age you are, you'll be able to enjoy them.
I feel like there's like a sense of cultural authenticity in your approach as well. Am I getting that wrong, or am I right about that?
Oh no, like I said, from her parentage and everything, we're going to be dealing with a lot of things from an African point of view, an African American point of view, and also from a Pacific point of view.
Okay. So what are the plans for Autumn Fox, I guess? What secrets can you tell us about what's going on with her, and where will we be able to even find the first issue?
Well, the first issue actually isn't out yet. The game plan is to have it out by June, but we're actually going to be doing a Kickstarter later this month for the project. It's going to be like a 30-page story to launch us off, because we're going to get, a chance to get the origin of the character.
So you must have a lot of story to tell.
Oh, we got a lot of story to tell, and the story won't be told in just this first issue. But like I said, by doing the Kickstarter, it'll give us a chance to get the ball rolling. Because basically I've got a creative team, like Robert Jeffrey is the writer. And he worked with us before with like Route 3, which is an award-winning project. And he was one of the people and stuff that was around when I first created, the Fox Chronicles, universe.
I am so hoping I can get Robert Jeffrey with us in the future, because I worked with him on that project as well. And I can tell you that I was enthralled by the project, Route 3. And I was amazed by how prophetic it was with regards to the story it ended up telling.
Hopefully we can get that same thing going with the Autumn Fox stories.
We've got to definitely get that going with the Autumn Fox stories, for sure. I'm telling you. So what are your future plans outside of this? And before I go to that, this whole thing is about how Black culture has been infused in our media lately, especially in sci-fi, horror, and comics. Do you feel like there's a different sense of it now? I mean, when you approached doing Autumn Fox versus doing Amber Fox, you brought culture into that story. Do you feel that this is the time to do this now in comparison to the early 2000s when you originally came up with the character for Amber Fox?
Well, it's one of those things and stuff that I think that we still, in this day and time, we need to have more protagonists of color. We need to have more female protagonists. Right now, even when you watch TV shows like, WandaVision, there's so many people that are excited about seeing the character of, Monica Rambeau. And, those of us who read comics know that Monica Rambeau was actually the first female Captain Marvel. And that she was a black character, and that she actually went on to be leader of the Avengers. And so we actually see this character and hope that Disney and the MCU actually, puts her back where she's supposed to be.
Well, I don't doubt that they have a future plan for her already. They laid the foundation and the groundwork for that, and she is like the latest in a line of stories that are being told on HBO, even, because I know I'm thinking about Lovecraft Country and I'm thinking about Watchmen.
Actually, a lot of the scenes, was it the Forever Pets location that was in Watchmen, was actually here at North DeKalb Mall where my shop is. And actually the church that the bad guys were hiding out in was actually the Macy's here at North DeKalb Mall.
This story that we're telling right now, your story, the stories that are coming after this is not just a one-hit wonder type of thing. We're going to have to keep getting the word out and keep letting people know what we got going on, because what you're doing is spectacular. What Robert has already done is spectacular. I think this is a story worth telling. I think this is a story worth chronicling. And I'm glad that you are a part of it. And I'm hoping that I can make some small contribution to it as well. So.
Well, my whole thing and stuff has always been, I've been a fan and dealing with fandom here in Atlanta since like the 1980s, back when I started off as a staff photographer for the Atlanta Fantasy Fair and later on with DragonCon. And I remember going to those conventions, and basically you can, count the number of black attendees on one hand. And, we all kind of like knew each other. Now, I go to conventions and there's thousands of us, and I always tell everybody, it's like, hey, I'm the OG, One of the reasons I started doing my convention, Atlanta Sci-Fi and Fantasy Convention, and had it like free to the public, is that I wanted to have something where artists and writers and other creatives could get together and share their experiences and share their knowledge.
I also want to continue to inspire the fans as well. I remember when I was a kid in South Carolina, and I'm going to the comic shop, and there's like a lot of white kids there. At Greenville at the time, I think it may have been 17% black. So I was always surprised by how many other black kids were in the shop with me, trying to find our favorite comics, our favorite books that were inspiring us, inspiring our imaginations. And one of the most pivotal scenes to me in Lovecraft Country was when they do that scene set where they show where everything is, they show the whole streets and the bookstore where everybody's located. And I see all these other kids that look like me that were also interested in comics, interested in science fiction, interested in imaginary tales that I don't think that our culture is looked upon as being interested in that type of thing. So when I saw that scene, that spoke to me directly, and I was wondering how many people it also speaks to. There's a lot that we're going to have to unpack over time as we continue to tell this story. And I'm looking forward to all of us getting involved in that storytelling. So. Well,
that's actually one of the things and stuff that I get, some amount of pride of, having, the comic shop and everything, and being able to be there for kids in the neighborhood. Cause, now at this point, I still get 30-year-old men, who come up to me and they're like bringing their kids and stuff over to the shop. And they're basically saying, hey son, this is, the guy who had a shop on Memorial Drive that I used to go hang out at that kept me off the streets.
I feel that. I totally feel that. I feel the same way about my past as well. How I grew up and how I pretty much stayed out of trouble because I had shops like yours to go to as a kid. So thank y'all, and we will be talking again soon.
Infusion.